Hopefully you guys can hear me okay this time. I had to switch over to my phone because I don't know, for whatever reason, the sound was not coming through on my laptop. So just gonna make sure you guys can hear me okay. I don't know if anyone's here. So I guess I'm just gonna flow and I'm gonna keep it moving, and if someone happens to pop on, just let me know if you can hear. If not, I'll just have to delete the video later. And in the meantime, let's get to it. So I am Krys Rael of Cosmic Frequency, and we're going to be diving into ether physics today. We're going to be talking about teleportation and the concept of non-locality. So non-locality is a principle that is used whenever we are thinking about things like teleportation, astral projection, and oh, you can hear me? Awesome, that's so good, that's so good. Okay, so yeah, so just as I always say, everything that is shared here is for the highest and purest potential for everyone involved, and you can always take this as fact or fiction. It's always up to you. I apologize about the mishap a couple minutes ago. I have no idea what was happening with the computer. But yes, so in May, we have an event coming up, Cosmic Frequency Experience and Weekend in Burke, Vermont, Kingdoms Trail. If you guys have not registered yet, we only have 12 spots available. So yeah, would love to see you there. Okay, so secrets of teleportation. Before we talk about teleportation and really get into the nuances of what it would take to actually teleport, I had a whole series of notes I wanted to read off today, but they're on my phone and I'm using my phone, so I can't read them, so it's all good. We have to understand the preliminary foundations of the ether or of the source. So when we talk about the ether, we're talking about pure potential energy, something that is timeless and that is beyond the contemporary thinking mind. It's what some would call God. I call it the ether. It's the source. It's where everything returns to and spawns from. And one principle of this potential energy is that everything is connected. There's no separation. There's no here or there or over there or up there or down there. It's all based upon vibration and resonance. You experience different parts of the ether or the realm or the unified field, if you will, based on your own vibration, which is your own thoughts. And I want to demonstrate this example by using this right here. So this is just a little butterfly toy, and it doesn't look like much, but this does a wonderful job of illustrating this concept of non-locality or eternality, if you will. So I said this in my last video, but I'm just going to go for it again. Most people only know themselves as this purple inner butterfly. That's it. Most people only know themselves as that purple butterfly. And they see reality as separate pieces, meaning nothing's connected to them. And so they think in terms of travel. They think in terms of travel as locations, point A, point B. And that is only predicated by the consciousness that assumes itself to only be a small portion, when in fact, it's the whole thing, right? If you notice, this toy can bend this way, it can bend that way, it can move all around. And no matter how it's bending or moving, it's still always connected to the whole. And yes, this is metaphor for reality because this is how things actually work. No matter who we think we are, what timeline, what experience we're having, we are always connected and intertwined with the whole thing. And if we're intertwined and if we're really connected to the whole thing, that means there's no place to travel to. Okay, Krys, if there's no place to travel to, then how would you explain moving from point A to point B or something like teleportation? What happens is the inner part, again, the consciousness that only thinks it's the purple is not aware of its total nature and the fact that it's actually connected to everything. And so once this consciousness has enough incarnations and experiences, it actually starts to assimilate more and more and more and more of itself over time. And so it is the purple, it is the yellow, it is the blue, it is the orange, and it's all the way up to the green. Some would say, oh, this is just my human incarnation. And they would assume that they're getting information downloads from a higher power, but yet it's just them at a different vibrational rate. We could call it the pink line right here. The insights and the wisdoms that come from the pink are able to be perceived by the purple, you as a soul, as an individuated part of source, once you have expanded your consciousness to interpret the energies or the thought waves or thought patterns coming from another part of yourself. So I'm trying to use this to give you an example of how everything is connected. There's no separateness in the cosmos. And so this is a lofty topic, and I have to draw it out into a couple pictures here for you. So bear with me. So now that you comprehend that you are literally totality, the only thing that keeps you from experiencing the biggest part of you as the source is what you think about, what you think is possible. Just because, if I go like this, if I try to get this, if I do this to a certain degree, you can't see all the other colors, right? For the most part, you can't see the other colors. But just because you can't see something, just because you can't perceive it yet, doesn't mean that it's not there. Because this is just as real and acceptable and able to be experienced as this. This singular 3D thinking mindset is only able to perceive a very small part of reality. What happens is the soul has to expand its awareness to then be able to interpret different levels of itself over time. And the more a soul expands its consciousness, the more aware it becomes, the more access it has to other parts of its being. Most people operate like this. Some operate like that, some operate like this, and some operate like this, with full function and awareness of themselves as the whole. And so cosmic frequency is here to help you comprehend these principles, because once you have this foundation understood, that nothing is inherently separate, that it's all this, now it makes sense as to how you could do something like teleportation, because you're not really traveling anywhere. The purple is still connected to the green. Purple is still connected to the green. So what changes? What changes is what I call association. So most of us are only associating, meaning focusing on this level of identity, just this. And so we've created neurological pathways in our brain that keep firing and keep repeating themselves to the point where this becomes so real and so solid that it's actually hard to perceive another level of reality. And after doing this lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, you get very used to the physical realm and it feels safe to you. And so your subconscious ends up creating a barrier or a safety net that says, this is where I'm safe. If I expand too much, oh, that could be scary. And so you create limitation for yourself based on who and what you think you are. And so what we're talking about is actually disassociation from just the physical form. We have to learn to let it go once we've integrated it. And I know this sounds counterintuitive to what you hear from a lot of other spiritual circles, but this is a new frequency. This is a new tier of knowledge. Most things are meant to keep you like this, right? Most things are meant to keep you like this. No matter how fancy it sounds, it's not going to give you the keys or the secrets to how to expand to become more, right? So once you learn how to let go of your current physical identity, which is to say, you disassociate from it, you then have access to these other aspects of yourself. Hold on, my cat is scratching at the door. I'll be right back. You're good. She's good. All right, so you do this through deep meditation. And see, there's different levels to meditations. For some people, meditation is just something they do to calm their nervous system. For others, people meditate to manifest things. For others, they meditate to travel the cosmos, to actually do things like astral projection, teleportation, to travel dimensions. That's another part of meditation. So whenever you're talking about something like non-locality, what we're saying is everything is predicated based on the thoughts that you're having and the things that you're focusing on. That'll give you the general experience of something. That general experience you call physical. And without getting too fancy into the ether physics of it all, in short, you start to generate a pulse wave that gives you a certain experience. Now, you would say something like this: well, in the future, I'm going to go do this, or in the future, blah, 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 blah. Well, the future is still here. The future is still here. The difference is, for you, the future is at a higher vibrational rate, which means you have to assimilate the frequencies of that timeline or of that experience. And how do you do that? How do you simulate the frequencies of a timeline or an experience or a place? Well, you think about them. You think about it and you disassociate from where you currently are, and you become the thing that you would like to experience by your thoughts, by your feelings. And this is done, like I said, in deep trance-like meditations. Nothing is separated other than the idea that we think it's separated. And so that future experience has a whole sequence of what is called harmonics of a frequency, or I like to call them etheric pulse rhythms, that make it up. Basically, it's like this. The color yellow is made up of different mathematical sequences than the blue. And in order to get to the blue, to teleport or travel to the blue, you must assimilate or become compatible with the blue harmonics of a frequency. You have to let go of the yellow, and you have to think, act, and become blue. And once you think, act, and become blue, you are more of the same. You become blue. And so the goal here is not, it's really not a secret. It's just a matter of understanding the realm and how energy moves. Something seems farther away in distance because we have not picked up on the harmonics, which is to say the baseline thought patterns or rhythms of vibration that make it up. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, but the thing is, when you start to describe concepts like this, they start to compound on each other and it becomes really complicated. So I'm doing my best here. If you think of something like, here's a good example. I've used this before. If you have a tuning fork and a tuning fork here, this tuning fork is being played at 432 hertz. This tuning fork is being played at 440 hertz, and let's say there's a ping pong ball in the middle. You hit this tuning fork, and you hit this one, and that ping pong ball will not move because this is at 432 and this is at 440. Now let's say you change the 440 to 432 to 432. You hit this tuning fork, you hit that one. Now that ping pong ball will start to vibrate because 432 is coherence, it's harmony, it's resonance, and it creates a reverberation that actually is harmonious for that ping pong ball, and so it starts to move back and forth. That is to say, 432 hertz here is the same as 432 hertz here. It's more of the same. Meaning, if I'm sitting in meditation and I know myself to be sitting and I'm associating with myself sitting next to a river, but I want to be inside my house, instead of associating, thinking about being next to the river, I need to shift and become the energy that is inside the house, inside my bedroom, inside the living room, wherever it is. And as you do this through meditation, what you're doing is you're actually rewiring your brain, and you're creating a torus around your body that then is taking on and becomes the frequency of the thing or of the place that you would like to experience. So you actually start to, you don't go anywhere. You become the thing. You become the man or woman sitting in the living room instead of the man or woman sitting, next to the river. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not traveling. It's simply ether resonance. You are resonating at a different frequency, and once you become that different frequency, the one that you were at is obsolete. You stop vibrating as the yellow, like I said, and you start vibrating as the blue. So anything or anyone who's vibrating the frequency of blue will then be where? At blue, in the realm of blue. And so I've given like 3 or 4 examples of non-locality and how this works. Now, what I found is that when you actually sit down to practice something like this, what's going to come up is those old thought patterns of this isn't possible. Well, am I doing it right? And those are all just the firewalls that you placed in your subconscious. So what you have to do is you have to be patient and diligent and practice. You have to overcome the subconscious programming in order to achieve something like this. And it takes practice, it takes patience. And so over time, you'll find that you'll start to integrate different concepts and different perceptions. And those different perceptions are now conducive to something like teleporting. There's no trick to it. There's no mantra, It's a matter of comprehending how things actually work. Nothing is separate. There's no here, no there. You're only experiencing what you're experiencing because you are the vibrational match for that experience. If you want a different experience, if you want to go to a different place, a different atmosphere, a different dimension, you first must become that different dimension or experience within your own self. When you become it within your own self, that is to say you are thinking in alignment, in adjacent to, in accordance to that place or that experience. You're feeling it. You're not being distracted by what's immediately in front of you. You then change your aura, or you change your energetic rhythm, pulse rhythm, that then starts to vibrate and becomes the thing that you would like to experience. That is the most simplest way I can put this, and I'm proud of myself because it only took 20 minutes. So I'll pause now, see if you guys have any questions. I know there's a few of you popping in and out. These are the kind of things I would like to start to discuss with you and go into deeper practice during the in-person events and in-person gatherings. Could you imagine us sitting in a circle under the stars practicing something like disassociation, where we are intentionally shifting our brain waves and materializing other places. This is a very real thing. And the difference is we have to overcome the limited thoughts that we have about these kinds of things. And how do you do that? By exposing yourself to different brain waves. How do you do that? By sitting in deep meditation and allowing yourself to go into a, almost like a hypnagogic trance state and disassociating. Not making what's out here in front of you important anymore. You literally let it go. And you live in that expression or in that event or moment that you want to be a part of. Now this gets into things like time travel, because then we understand, well, if I can move forward in time, then I can move backward in time. Then at that point, if everything is just based on frequency, well, then there is no time. There is no future or past. There's just different states of vibration. There's just different states of resonance. And so the future and the past are just states of mind again. They're just ideas again. And so you could travel to the future or the past based on thinking in those time frames. Now, time travel in this way is not as black and white as you think. It's not a, hey, I'm just going to go over here and it's going to be the same. No, that's a whole other thing. There's a reason time travel is such a heavily talked about but misunderstood concept, because there's a deep level of responsibility and training that needs to go into something like time travel before you actually can do it consciously and responsibly. Because it's like you never step in the same river twice. So as you are doing something like, trying to project back to the 1920s, you create another timeline. And it gets really trippy at that point. And that's for another conversation. We'll save time travel for another talk. But speaking just to teleporting, can you show us how to teleport? Well, I'm sharing it with you right now. I'm not gonna sit here on camera and boom, I'm gone. I share enough to give you guys the keys and the tools. Everything else we do is either in a one-on-one training, a one-on-one with me, or in an in-person gathering. I only like to do these videos to open up the door. These lives are free. I don't do this stuff because I, have to do it. I do it because I love to do it. I love talking about these things. At that same time, there is rites of passages that need to be gone through and accepted before you can, move into this kind of stuff. So I would love to show you, but again, I would love to save that for either a one-on-one or in-person event. If I teleport somewhere, do I do the same to get back? Yeah, so look at this. So just last night, I was doing an astral projection and I found myself in this like museum type setting, and it was really interesting. And my family here, like in the physical, they were leaving early today. So as I'm in this astral projection experience, I know my physical body, this physical body is sleeping. I'm in a different dimension having this experience. I tell someone, hey, I have to get back. I have to go back. And all I had to do was just think. And I woke up back in my body, back in the bed. So you will always go back to the most dominant frequency, which is going to be your incarnated self at that moment. It's just like whenever I was in an immersion pod and I woke up in my immersion pod and I went back to sleep from where it's at, and then I came back here to this body. So reality becomes malleable, like I said. Your body's just the avatar. Your consciousness can go wherever it wants to go. Now, someone asked if I physically or in imagination. So first off, imagination gets a really bad rap. Everything is imagination, even physicality. This is your imagination. This whole situation right now is just in your imagination. Your imagination is just your thoughts and your ideas. That's all it is. You're having thoughts and ideas all the time. You're imagining things all the time. So whenever I hear imagination, I think of the creator zone. I don't think fake. I don't think non-physical. Because for me, that astral experience or those dream experiences that some of you may have is just as physical as what you experience when you're in the waking state. So it's not that this is physical and that's just imaginative. It's that right now your consciousness is so focused and associated with this frequency that it seems physical because you've generated enough thought power, enough enough energy that creates nodes or standing waves that then those standing waves seem physical. But it's still just your imagination. Now, when you're dreaming, you disassociate from this realm and you go to another one every single night. And in that realm, it's so real that sometimes you wake up out of the dream like like that. Right? Because it was so real to you. Because it is real. So imagination is everything. The difference is when you fall asleep, you disassociate from here and you start to associate with a different frequency. You start to associate, you disassociate from the purple and you start to associate with maybe the blue. Sometimes it's orange, maybe it's the green. I don't know, wherever you go is where you go. Where is where you go. So when you say, is it physical or imagination, you're saying the same thing. Wherever you put your attention, if you put it there enough, you will experience it as physical. But you have to start to change your referencing and your framework of mind. And you can't think of the physical as just solid. You can't think of just the imagination as just invisible or hasn't happened yet or fake. There is no separation. There's only your focus of consciousness. And where you focus is where you will be. You will create a standing wave in the ether that then, like I keep saying, becomes solid. That is to say, you could dematerialize this body and you could rematerialize somewhere else. You can walk through walls, like all this stuff. This is not airy-fairy, like fake. This is very real things. And I'm just someone who's talking about it to just start to open up those pathways in your brain, in your subconscious, to start to perceive something like this again, to get away from the sci-fi and the movies and see it as a real tangible thing again. Because if we don't talk about it as if it's real, as if it's possible, it never will be, because we will not create the neurological pathways that then are able to perceive the higher functions of the ether, the pure potentials, to collect the data and information that then comes together to give us the tangible experience. You see how that works? When you think of something in the past or the future, it's about assimilating the data, the information. Really, in the Matrix, they illustrate it very well. They have like all the numbers and everything. So like the woman in the red dress was like all these specific numbers on the Matrix screen. Neo was a specific number on the Matrix screen. They didn't look physical. They just looked like all these numbers. Well, that's how it really is. But you're interpreting those numbers and those waves in the ether as things. You interpret me looking like this, but I'm just a pulse wave of energy. That's all I am. I'm just a sphere of energy. And so are you. And so this is what I mean by recalibrating how you think about reality. I'm taking you to a higher level of consciousness right now. When you start to associate words with different functions, you start to think differently. you have to break open your mind and allow yourself to go from singular thinking to multidimensional, right? I jumped around spontaneously, however, not on demand. It just happens. Yeah. Yep. Well, that's the thing. It will happen, and it's probably happened to most people, but they just chalk it up to deja vu. They say, "Oh, I just had a deja vu." No, what you did is you collapsed time. You assimilated different parts of your multidimensional self, and you time traveled. That's what you did, because as I'm talking, I'm creating a ripple, and that ripple can be predictable. If it's strong enough, it becomes predictable, right? Just like when you drop a pebble in the pond, it ripples. Well, you can gauge where those ripples are going to go because there's a pattern. You can kind of see it getting bigger and bigger, and you can basically predict where that next ripple is going to show up, right? That's deja vu. What you've done is you have just transposed your consciousness from one focal point to the other, and now you're seeing it because you are picking up on that pattern. So as you go about your day, you're going about your day in a pattern, and you're eating a sandwich, and that eating of that sandwich creates that ripple that then has a linear sequence to it. If you can skip ahead into that linear sequence, you'll say, "Oh, I've been here before. This is deja vu." Yes, you're picking up on that linear sequence. You're picking up on that next pattern, that next ripple of the pond. This is fucking powerful stuff. And I really hope you all are comprehending the magnitude of amazingness that I'm looking to convey to you. This is the hidden secrets, and this is the big reveals that people have been waiting for. It's we just haven't been able to get to that consciousness, and no one talks about this. Everyone talks about it as if it's in theory. Okay, well, potentially the Higgs boson particle could potentially do that. No. No. Observe your reality. Look for patterns. Everything is explainable from the one who truly desires to know. The truth will be revealed to you because you actually become the truth. You become the teaching itself. You go from seeker to student to experiencer to teacher to teaching. You become the teaching. You become the thing. So scooting back to deja vu, and it just happening spontaneously, as Golden Orb is saying. Do you see what I'm saying with the ripple? So your consciousness is, okay, I'm here. But as I keep on once I say talk, if I can shift my consciousness to the ing, talk ing, once I get consciously to the ing part of it, I would say something like, "Oh, I just had a deja vu." But all I did was shift my focus point a little bit further ahead of my thinking mind, picked up on, assimilated the frequencies from that experience, integrated it into my now consciousness, and by the time I get to that experience, I feel like I lived it already. That's what deja vu is. It's time travel. That's time travel. Right there, you do it all the time. But mainstream spirituality, which is just a bunch of hogwash, mainstream science, they don't want you to know these things because the world wants to keep you like this. It wants to keep you one-dimensional. It wants to hide all your grandness. It wants to keep you hidden. Stay small, stay small. We have all the answers. They don't want to free you. I'm here to say, hey, look, you are all of this and more. You're not just this. It's okay to know yourself as the source. It's okay to expand your mind. It's okay to not buy into the mainstream propaganda of anything and to think for yourself. It's okay to do that. Because once you do that, that's when life gets lucid. Psychedelic, I don't need psychedelics. I am the source. I like to know that I'm in control and I am conscious of what I'm doing when I'm doing it. all I need to know how to do is discipline my mind to let go of old outdated programs so that I can perceive more of what I truly actually am. This is cosmic frequency. And if you think this is powerful, just wait until we get in person and we're doing this together as a group, as one cohesive unit, where our minds are focused on creating and generating experiences that are going to uplift and enrich our lives. Some of you might be asking, well, Krys, how is this applicable to my everyday life? Very much so. When you practice things like disassociation, and not in an irresponsible way. I'm not saying like sit there and ignore your kids that are crying and ignore your cats who need food and, don't take care of yourself and just sit there like, oh, no. I'm saying be very responsible with your practice. Take the time you need to center in. But at the same time, you have all function and all ability to get yourself into that state. Right? Okay. Whew. Got all fired up. Is remote viewing different than teleportation? It is different than teleportation. Same premise. You're still utilizing the base ether physics, which is non-locality, which is the point of what we're talking about. I sense schizophrenia. Did you stop taking your medications? That's a good one. I never took any medications, but I wonder if you have, my friend. And that's the problem. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to give that my attention. So, remote viewing is being able to perceive and pick up on frequencies that aren't in your immediate localized area. Right? So, one time I was riding on a I don't know, I think I was driving or something, and I knew I was coming up to a stop sign or a stop walk in one of the local towns, and I wanted to see if I could see who was in front. I wanted to see who was at that stop sign before I got there. And so in my mind, I just allowed my consciousness to just pick up on the frequencies that I could. And I perceived someone with a flannel jacket on, a red flannel jacket on. And by the time we got to the stoplight, there was someone there with a red flannel jacket on. So that would have been a case of remote viewing. Now at that time, I didn't know there was a word for that. I didn't know there was a word for what I just did. I just did it. I didn't find out until later that it was called remote viewing. So yes, everything that I'm talking about today is predicated on the understanding of a higher state of consciousness that you can only get into when you let go of outdated thought patterns and systems of belief. And I just want to send Danny Ziegler just a little hug, because apparently, brother, you have some tough things going on, or you just don't understand, and that's okay. This is not the space for you whatsoever. And I send you on your merry way, and I do not accept any of that energy or those kind of projections or thought forms. Furthermore, it just kind of goes to illustrate my whole point here, which is if you try to understand cosmic frequency from your current level of understanding, it's not going to make sense. You're going to think it's crazy. So yes, if it sounds crazy to you, Donnie, then it sounds crazy to you. This is not your space, my friend. For those of you who do understand, I'm glad you're here. And golden orb, yes, I hope that makes sense. Like your remote viewing, you can do that anytime. Like it's really simple. Just practice Okay, so you could practice something like this. Sit in your house sit in your house, and if you live near a road or a street, try to imagine what color the next car is going to be driving by. Right? That's a great way to practice your remote viewing. See if you can see in your mind's eye the next color of car that scoots on past your house. And that'll do you a great service in developing those higher senses and starting to open up those neurological pathways to perceive different parts of reality that, once again, are always here. One other thing I will add is people who actually do have schizophrenia, what they're doing is, especially in the Western society, since Donnie brought this up, he might need a little attention, Especially in the Western society, we view schizophrenia as a negative thing, because what happens is someone's psyche unintentionally gets expanded beyond their control. And so they say they start hearing voices. But what's really happening is they're actually opening up to their, not all the time, but sometimes their multidimensional nature. In the Eastern mysticisms, a lot of times these people would be considered shamans. What happens in the Western world is we shun, we kick out, we don't understand the multidimensional world, and so these people actually become degenerate in their thinking. When at the beginning of their episode, they're simply having a spiritual awakening. But there's no support system that can provide them with the knowledge and understanding of what's going on with them. And so it's made to, again, control the spiritual progression of the American and Western world. That's why there's labels like schizophrenia and all these things like that, because it's a huge misunderstanding of what's actually happening within the consciousness and psyche of a soul. Again, most people only view themselves and know themselves as one layer of reality. That's it. Now, that's not to say there's some people, obviously they have some stuff going on, but we don't need to get into all that. But yeah, if you guys don't have any other questions in regarding to the topic, which is the principle of non-locality, I think I'm going to call it a day. I will pause here for a few more minutes and just wrap this up by saying, in short, again, non-locality is the realization that there's no separation, there's no distance, there's no time. Everything is based on frequency harmonics. You have to become the thing that you want to experience in order to be it or experience it. That is the base core line principle. Instead of traveling from point A to point B and linearizing your life, you could become the thing. And through that, you have now teleported or traveled. And I know that a lot of this is ahead of its time, and for some it might still feel a little bit too good to be true, but as you guys get more familiar with my content, you will realize I'm not here to be contemporary, to be normal, to fit into anyone's box. I'm not here to appease your limited thinking. I'm here to expand your perceptions of reality through direct experience and cosmic frequency. That is why I'm literally on this planet. And for those of you who are looking for more of this information, more of this direct experience, please reach out to me at cosmicfrequency.org, Krys at cosmicfrequency.org. My website is cosmicfrequency.org. Like I said, we have the 3-day event coming up where we will be practicing things like this in person, going on hikes, eating yummy food. You'll have your own time and space to actually unfold. It's not going to be me just talking for 45 minutes. It's going to be you in your own energy in an environment where your consciousness can actually expand. It's my belief that most people simply need the correct environment and they'll figure out 98% of the things themselves. Unfortunately, modern society, even the spiritual communities that most of you are part of, do not provide the correct environment for you to actually expand. What happens in most of these retreats is that you're just fed more information. You're not given time to actually feel your own essence. You're not given time to actually feel your own heartbeat or hear your own thoughts. And so when you come to something like cosmic frequency experience, you're going to be given those moments of just pure introspection in the mountains of Vermont. We're going to come together at the end of the day and just talk about what came up, what happened inside us, what happened in our thoughts, what conclusions on reality we may or may not have arrived at. And then from there, I'll just give a quick talk on a specific topic. It might be about French fries, it could be about trees, it could be about time travel, I don't know, we'll see. But The point is, we'll do this together in person in May. Yes, May 3rd through the 5th. So if that resonates with you, I will see you guys there. There's only 12 spots only. Golden Orb, Lar Williams, Donnie, thank you, brother. Dear Destiny, thank you all for being here. I appreciate you so much. Those of you who didn't leave any comments, thank you for your support with Cosmic Frequency. Feel free to donate, register for a one-on-one service, whatever it is. I'm here for you all. All right, peace. See if I can finally figure out how to close these lives out, right? Oh, Carl, what's up? That's a good way to end it. Time traveling French fries. Woo!